Hello, everybody. Today, I want to talk about the battle between Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of the greatest Jedi duels in the entirety of the history of Star Wars, and probably one of the most important fights in the Star Wars universe and in the Star Wars Skywalker saga. Today, I want to talk about the fight and how close the actual fight was between Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi during this time, and what exactly happened during this duel to give Obi-Wan Kenobi the edge, and if Obi-Wan Kenobi could have been defeated by Anakin Skywalker at any point in time during this fight. So, without further ado, here we go. But first, a little bit of background. Anakin Skywalker was the apprentice of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi had spent most of their time fighting alongside each other during the different missions that they were sent on by the Jedi Order shortly before the Clone Wars even started. Throughout the first 10 years of his training, Anakin Skywalker was regarded as one of the most capable Jedi out there and one of the greatest apprentices to any Jedi that mostly anybody had ever seen. Anakin was very well instructed in lightsaber combat, he was well instructed in the Force, he was very dedicated to both of these attributes, and he was quite literally better than most of the other apprentices and far better than many of the teachers that were actually teaching the ways of lightsaber combat and the Force. Anakin Skywalker finally got to steel his resolve during a mission to protect Padme Amidala from any threats that would come her way, but his true test came when he fought against Count Dooku on the planet of Geonosis, where he would unfortunately lose his arm, and he and Obi-Wan Kenobi would swiftly be defeated by Count Dooku shortly before he made his escape aboard his ship and fled to his master known as Sidious. Over the course of the next 3 years, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, along with Anakin Skywalker's very own apprentice Ahsoka Tano, would fight alongside each other during the Clone Wars, fighting against many threats including the Confederacy of Independent Systems, Darth Maul, Count Dooku, and General Grievous, fighting them throughout the entirety of the Clone Wars up until the time where Ahsoka Tano would leave the Jedi Order. Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi would obviously keep on fighting the good fight up until 19 BBY, where Count Dooku and General Grievous would abduct Chancellor Palpatine and take him aboard the Invisible Hand above the planet of Coruscant during a massive battle. But throughout this entire time that Anakin Skywalker had been Obi-Wan Kenobi's apprentice, somewhere near 13 years, Anakin Skywalker had been very well trained by different Jedi Knights throughout the entirety of the Jedi Order, had been trained in the Force, and was very well convinced that he was extremely powerful because of his abilities and his instruction that made him seem like he was better than most of the Jedi in the Jedi Temple, which arguably he was. Either way, Obi-Wan Kenobi would come to understand Anakin Skywalker's form of fighting style and would match him with his Form 4 fighting style, which would be more on the defensive end, while Anakin Skywalker's was more on the offensive. The two of them would work pair in pair, side by side, fighting against Count Dooku multiple times, and the two of them would sometimes even overpower Count Dooku, leading him to flee the entirety of the scene while they were contemplating what they could have done to easily have defeated him. Regardless of this, Obi-Wan Kenobi was mainly responsible for Anakin Skywalker's instruction and basically knew his moves inside and out while fighting alongside him for the past 13 years. The two of them knew each other, they knew each other's quirks, they knew each other's fighting style, defensive style, everything in between, and the two of them basically worked like flowing water. The only issue, however, was Anakin Skywalker's tenacity to dip a little bit into the dark side of the Force while he was fighting his opponents. Many individual battles with Count Dooku proved that Anakin Skywalker would sometimes dig deeper into the dark side of the Force to defeat him, only for him to then be overpowered by either Magna droids that were electrocuting him or some other third party that would eventually save Count Dooku during the time of peril where Anakin Skywalker would seem like he was about to kill Count Dooku. Regardless, over the course of time, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi would fight alongside each other through many battles and many different campaigns during the Clone Wars, and would eventually reach a point where the two of them were equal in almost every measure. The problem, however, is when Anakin Skywalker eventually fully turns to the dark side of the Force and becomes Darth Vader. His power increases, his anger increases, frustration, hatred towards the Jedi Order and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he practically murders his way throughout the entirety of the Jedi Temple, causing him to become even more powerful than he could possibly imagine, and bringing him to nearly the fullest potential that he could be. And Anakin Skywalker became so powerful with the dark side of the Force that he not only thought that he could defeat Palpatine and overthrow him, becoming the new Emperor of the Galaxy, he also thought that he could literally defeat any Jedi that came across his path, including Master Yoda. The issue, however, is that he's fighting against Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi knows Anakin Skywalker. He knows how he fights, he knows how he tries to overpower his opponents, and with his defensive style of combat, all he has to do is wait for a very particular opening to be set up, and then he can take on Anakin and probably overpower him with quick slashes and strikes to where he can actually cut off the rest of his limbs. Meanwhile, Anakin's position is to completely overpower Obi-Wan Kenobi with heavy strikes and blows to try and wear him down to where he can find his own opening so he can take on and strike down Obi-Wan Kenobi right then and there on Mustafar. The problem with this, however, is that Anakin has just tapped into the dark side of the Force and has just become this powerful. He doesn't know how to manage it. He has become so powerful that he's cracking jokes while he's murdering the Confederacy of Independent System leaders. He's literally murking his way throughout the entirety of the Jedi Order. And Obi-Wan Kenobi, while also being one of the most powerful duelists and one of the greatest duelists, only manages to defeat Anakin Skywalker because he knows Anakin inside and out, and he knows how he works in combat. If this were literally any other Jedi, with the exception of maybe Yoda, Anakin Skywalker most definitely would have overpowered him and would have killed them right then and there.